guys. Now, I've recorded my own version of True Colors. It was actually the first one that I recorded for this particular channel. And people have asked me why. They hint at what her original intent in the song was. And I can't say anything about her original intent because I've never met the lady. But to me, what this song has always been about is that it's about being yourself, about being who God created you to be and letting that shine, letting that person shine, exposing those true colors, as it were, and letting people see what that is instead of hiding them inside. Now, I thought about this song. I'd always liked it and always thought it would be cool to record it. But my son, who was in elementary school at the time, I don't remember how old he was or what grade. I think he was around 6 or something like that. He had one day at school where it was Crazy Hair Day, and he desperately wanted to do his hair just crazy, do something with it. But he was afraid to. He was afraid to go crazy with his hair because he was afraid that people would think he looked stupid. Seriously. On a day when everyone else in the school is doing the crazy hair, he was afraid he would look stupid to his peers. And it broke my heart because you could see that he wanted to do that, but his fear of how he looked to his friends was too much, and he did his hair normal that day. There was another time where I have a vocal trio that has done some Southern gospel music and such, and we were in a band. We were on stage at one event, and we're doing our usual thing of just goofing around. We have lots of fun on stage. Oftentimes, it makes me look a little bit like an idiot, but it's for the enjoyment and the pleasure of the audience. We have a great time. And we had somebody come up to us afterwards who was another one of the performers, and he said to us that he wished he could do that kind of thing on stage, that he could just let go like that. But he was too afraid that he wouldn't look cool on stage. At that time, my wife coined this phrase. She said, "How much joy is lost for fear of looking stupid?" Think about that. How much joy is lost for fear of looking stupid. But you see, God made you to be someone. God made you different. It's funny. In our culture, we're encouraged to be unique. They say, be what you want to be. They say, you are beautiful just the way you are. And you hear this all over the place. But the mixed message is this. You see the movie stars and the models and the actresses that are also kind of saying, you're not good enough the way you are. So we spend a lot of time trying to be like other people. It's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be unique, but we try and be like someone else. So I found a great article on I believe a United Church website talking about Satan. And where did this come from? Where did this desire to be like others come from? And it talks about Satan. When he was in heaven, he was created as an angel of light. He named Lucifer, which Lucifer means son of the morning star. In Latin, it means light-bearing. Here he is, one of the highest creations that God has made. He's beautiful. Ezekiel 28:13 describes him, says, "You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you. Carnelian, chrysolite, and emerald, topaz, onyx, jasper, lapis, lazuli, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and your mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared." You want to talk about bling. He had it. He had great beauty. But because of this, he became proud and he wanted more. He wanted to be like the Most High. Lucifer was not satisfied with how God made him, and he wanted more. So he reached out and decided he wanted to be like God. He wanted to be higher than God. Well, obviously, this didn't work out too well for him. Isaiah 14:12-14 says, "How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn! You have been cast down to the earth. You who once laid low the nations, you said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the uttermost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High." Well, he didn't succeed. So he decided to use the same thing to tempt Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. See, Adam and Eve were in there. They were happy. They had great relationship with God. They lived in the most beautiful garden. They were content with what they had. There was nothing that they didn't have access to except one thing. And it never even occurred to them that this would be a thing. Until Lucifer comes along, which, by the way, his name was now Satan, because Satan means adversary. He wasn't happy with their contentment, so he tempted them, saying, God doesn't want you to eat that fruit because he knows when you eat of that fruit, you'll become like him. He tempted them with the same thing. Enter the seed of temptation, and they're like, oh, and they fell. So think about it. With us not being happy with who we are, wanting to be like someone else, there's evil involved when we're not happy with who God made us. Satan is doing the same thing to us, and he prowls around all the time trying to make people unhappy. Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Psalm 139:13 says, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb." So he made you the way you are for a reason. It wasn't a mistake. That reason is to do his will, which he prepared for you in advance. Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." So here's the problem. Satan comes along and spends a lot of time trying to tell us we're not good enough. When you think you're not good enough, it's because you're believing a lie. You're believing what he's telling you. And then we get too inward focused. We get selfish. We don't really know who we are, so we seek out and follow our feelings. You've heard of people going out and doing a soul searching where I'm going to find myself. That's what that means. But we live in a sinful world, and we have a sinful nature which comes from Adam. So it's corrupted. We look to the world for comfort, for love, for joy, for peace, and for contentment. But the world is loud, and it does not have these things. Galatians 5:19-20 talks about what we call the acts of the flesh. I'm not going to read that right now, but these things are the things we do to satisfy our desire for significance, for pleasure, for joy. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new." Which is what you were intended to be, what God made you to be, without all the junk of the sin that made what you were seem so unsatisfactory. Now, remembering that just accepting Jesus may not make you happy with who you are right away. I know plenty of Christians who are still really inward focused and can't figure this out. It's a process. You become who Jesus made you when you get saved. But our minds have to catch up because we're so inward focused. Satan also wants to make as many Christians as possible as ineffective as possible because he doesn't want the gospel to be spread. He doesn't want that. So he talks to us by doing the same thing. And the funny thing is about how Satan talks to you, he doesn't stand there, well, you're worthless, you're tired, you're ugly. He doesn't do that. He actually talks in your own voice as if it was you talking to yourself, saying, I'm worthless, I'm useless, I'm ugly, I wish I could do. And he says it in what would be your own voice, so you believe it because you think it's your own thoughts. He does this on purpose until you're actually doing that. But that's why we need to say, no, that's a lie. And we focus our thoughts on Jesus because it only matters who he says you are and who he made you to be. It's like a screwdriver, if a screwdriver could talk, wanting to be a hammer. A screwdriver comes out of the toolbox and says, I'm going to be a hammer. I want to be a hammer. And you can use a screwdriver as a hammer. You hold it on the one end and you hit nails with it. But it's not very effective as a hammer because it's not designed that way and it will break. A hammer can be a hammer. A hammer is a really good hammer. A screwdriver is a really good screwdriver. If you were to convince that screwdriver this is what you were made to be, it's going to be a lot happier driving screws than hammering nails. When you find out what God made you to be and you walk in his will, doing what he made you to do, you will be a lot more contented and a lot more fulfilled than you would ever be doing that other stuff. So let me tell you the kicker here. This is the kicker. Luke 12:22 and 30-31 says, Then Jesus said to his disciples, Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For your Father knows that you need them. But seek his kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. Now Philippians 4:11-13 says, I'm not saying this because I am in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret to being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Proverbs 3:5 says, Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Now I talked about the acts of the flesh in Galatians 5:19-20. The acts of the flesh are what we as humans do in the world to satisfy this desire, but we use it to satisfy what is listed a few verses later, what we all really want a few verses later, which is a listing of the fruit of the Spirit. So here's the kicker. Those 3 verses I just read, plus the fruit of the Spirit, instead of spending time trying to figure yourself out, looking inward to decide who you are, and satisfying those desires yourself, if you spend time seeking his kingdom, letting him strengthen you, and trusting in the Lord, what happens? These things will be added to you. What things? The fruit of the Spirit. You will gain the fruit of the Spirit and begin to overflow with it. And the fruit of the Spirit is this. And this is how I'm going to finish. Galatians 5:22 and 23 says, The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And against such things there is no law. Frankly, the world cannot compare.